So I have two poems that I've written tonight, and the first is in the voice of Maggie the cat, and the second is in the voice of Big Daddy. And the first is titled, Maggie the Cat Fights Silence. And there's an epigraph where Maggie speaks. Laws of silence don't work when something is festering in your memory or your imagination. Laws of silence don't work. It's just like shutting a door and locking it on a house on fire. Along the fertile delta, Big Daddy drew up the lines of his future. They say it skips a generation, usefulness that is. I wore hand-me-down dresses till I got wed. I fantasized in silk taffeta, the swoosh my legs made when I walked into a room. Mother of pearl rested so coolly on my neck. In the suffering room, my lover sleeps in armored chairs. He turns his body away from the moon, that cunning stone. I've dressed the bed in French silk, but it swallows me whole. When I dream, I see it all on fire, flames spinning up the posts, tongues licking the mahogany frame, spooling out onto that cavernous, empty space between my lover and me. I knew there were big things in store for me. I read stories in grammar school, stories of wealth and affluence like you've never seen in our modern time. I have plans of my own to recreate the fertile valley, sequester myself off here in this prime piece of real estate, away from mobs, clawing at the bars of their own self-made prisons, trampling on each other to get ahead. I'm going to let these muddy waters flow. So I went on down to Lowenstein's department store, without Brick knowing, with the intent of picking out a fine gift for Big Daddy on his birth anniversary. So here I am, standing on the freshly polished marble, breathing in the candied air from the perfume counter. I feel hazy, giddy even. My, did I lose all sense and think of moving my boudoir in here. I'm standing in the aisle, running my fingers along the fabrics, dresses with bird's eye piqué, batista, silk taffeta, boucle sweaters of mohair and wool. Lingerie calls my name. I long to feel ivory lace, lace over my mouth, lace brush over my lips. I watch husbands and lovers moving in the warm room, choosing corsets and silky things, anniversary gifts, secret presents too. I imagine I'm carried away, screaming, pulled by the hair, fucked in the dark. Brick's hands are numb. I know, but I haven't felt them. My husband is Achilles' disappointment to the gods. I finger a lilac chemise resting on the table. The clerk's pale, sunken eyes follow me. Rain guards the long drive to Big Daddy's house. It drenches everything in its fury. Not even a stone remains, and the garden's washed out by morning. Brick labors on a wet, grassy field. He's training for immortality, he tells me. His body moves without his mind. He's a typhoon, a gladiator, with no crowd to condemn him. At night, I lie awake listening to his breath. A slow, painful suction. His helmet, scarlet red. I swear it speaks to him when I'm not around. He sits in convulsive silence. His large hands make the glass sweat. He stares, a sniper ready to kill. I slip on a powder pink nightgown with eyelet cutouts and white bows, soft as my own dove hands. I listen for the tinseled voice of our unborn child. But my womb's a dying ember, a dwarf star burning out to a single amber glow. I close the rose silk drapes, and I wait in the dark. Thank you. The next poem is called Death is a Shot in the Dark, and it's in the voice of Big Daddy. Starts with an epigraph. Ignorance of mortality is a comfort. A man don't have that comfort. He's the only living thing that conceives of death, that knows what it is. The others go without knowing, and yet a pig squeals. But a man sometimes, he can keep a tight mouth about it. I schemed my whole life long, born with the strength of 17 oxen. I was a mule for hauling bricks, resourceful, ironclad will. I worshipped the earth. She yielded to my pickaxe. I extracted nectar from her soil. My crops grew lush and full. Big Mama's lust for finery, sticky on fat fingers, French tapestries, hand-woven Persian rugs, silver candlesticks, porcelain cherubs packed in giant worm-eaten crates decomposing in my cellar. I fear the house never belonged to me. It hurts less giving it away. Sometimes I think the world will eat us alive. I've taken in parts of the globe you never imagined in your strangest dreams. Leery in the streets of Marrakech, I watched a prostitute under ominous doors, giant doors painted sapphire blue. Beneath the smoke of my cigar, a child appeared, a naked girl with brown eyes, moving toward me. I fear I've been ripped apart by devils. As the sun sets over Corsica, I stand on the hotel balcony in my suit, watching light die slowly. A vibrant sunset sinks into nothingness. My own bare heart envies the vast splaying of color, opalescent ivory, violet, orange, and pink light illuminating a revolving cloud bank. I see the child's disappearing face hidden beneath shadows and hear the bestial wailings of her mother. On my own plantation, I'm reminded of our gray battles, the confederacy that swallowed up my grandfather's generation in disintegrating walls of a great house that never sat quite right. There was a crack in it from the beginning, running up from the cellar, through the hallways, on up the staircase to the bedrooms. As vines overgrow walls, tenacious fingers climb on, riddling, echoing walls, and I know the house never belonged to me. The spirits of old straw and Ocello breathe here. There's duality of death and life dwelling in this house. Grandfather Pollitt grew thickness around his waist and heart after the war. Constant fighting takes vigor out of a man, and he wastes away. The lifeblood is drained, that spark of masculine vitality snuffed out on a very short wick. Suddenly he finds himself a shriveled mass of bones and skin. Skin so thin it feels heat and cold before new seasons come. The onset of summer, he predicts cool autumn winds before they blow in. The eyeless face of death appears, and he feels her, hears her, whistling her way through town, over train stations and sawmills, mining pits and factories, fields covered with grazing cattle. Snake-like she weaves, wily over great waters of the Mississippi, over the heads of giant pines, sycamores, and poplar trees. Our fathers and our grandfathers planted those trees. Death feels a hazy layer drift off the meadows at dawn. She wisps on past the watery heads of flowers drenched in dew. Death moves into our kitchens, our dining rooms, our parlors, our sitting rooms, and our libraries. She flies over chandeliers we hung and pianos we carried in on our own goddamn backs. Death passes over the Smith & Wessons, Colts and Winchesters, locked away behind glass. Rifles, shotguns, and pistols lie still in their cases. Within lethal barrels, the shiny chambers lie vacant, but for a thin layer of black soot, remnants of gunpowder, silkier than soil, collect in dust. She seeps in through floorboards, slithers into the sleeping arms of our wives and misses. I've heard it said a man's purpose is to suffer valiantly, die unashamed, knowing intimately the thin barrel of his life, and like a shot fired in the dark, he goes, a smoky plume on a starless night. But death is unquieted, and her thirst unquenchable. She is the great subduer of men. Thank you.